One of the interesting things to me is your name, Sarosh. In Persian mythology, Sarosh is an angel with a sword in his hand. And in Turkish, Sarhoş means drunk. But so it's interesting how languages work and how different things have different meanings. For you, growing up, what were you told your name meant?
I was told that Sarosh meant an angel of happiness, somebody who is
Mm,
the harbinger of happiness.
mm.
And over time, I got to learn the various nuances of the name. And one very prominent interesting thing was when I read Javed Nama by Iqbal. In Javed Nama, there is one character, Sarosh, who is an angel too.
Mm.
Apparently, he is Hazrat Jibrail, who has some very wise things to say. So it's not just in Persian mythology. Because of Iqbal and because of Rumi, it is also a part of Islamic mythology, if there is anything like that. So I'm normally it's a very unique name. Everywhere I have been in my class, there has been no other Sarosh. In my workplace, there has been no other Sarosh, mostly. So it gives me a sense of uh, distinction,
That's cool.
and I recall that you also wrote a very flattering poem about the name, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, the poem
And
was
I
about
could,
you.
yeah, I could see that you have given a lot of thought to the name.
Yeah, it's a very interesting name. And I didn't know that it was mentioned in the Javed Nama. What is the Javed Nama about? Who is it about?
David is actually it's been a while since I've read it. Javed Nama is a journey through cosmos of a poet who comes across many interesting characters in space and time who have very wise things to say about what it means to be alive and what it means to be infinite, what is eternity. So things like that. So
Wow,
very
that sounds
interesting.
like
Yeah.
that sounds like an enticing story.
Iqbal generally has very interesting things to say.
Yeah,
And given your interests, and I've skimmed through your books, and I think that you would love to read him too.
mm. Yeah. I attended an event at a masjid a couple years ago, and the guy that was there, he had a very interesting thing that he said from Iqbal, which was "Nigahe mard momin se badal jati hain takdeerein." And I thought that was a very profound one because it's so
Yeah,
true. You know, sometimes all you need is just the glance of a good person to
yeah,
inspire you to change in the right
yeah.
way.
It's
Do you
actually a
have
verse from
a
Iqbal's poem Tuluwe Islam. The verse that you are quoting right now is a verse from Iqbal's poem Tuluwe Islam, and the first verse of this couplet is कोई अंदाजा कर सकता है उसके जोरे बाजू का निगाहें मर्द मोमिन से बदल जाती हैं तकदीरें. So it if only the glance can do wonders, imagine what the strength of his arm could do.
is that
This
what
is
the
what
first
the
part
means.
means?
Sorry.
The first part, is that what that means?
The first part of this couplet is कोई अंदाजा कर सकता है उसके जोरे बाजू का, which means can anybody imagine what wonders his the strength of his arms can do. निगाहें मर्द मोमिन से बदल जाती हैं तकदीरें. If only his glance can change takdeer.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it is actually.
Do you have a favorite verse from him or from any poet in Urdu that you frequently think about?
Um, I I think Iqbal's poem, the same one that we are talking about, Tulu Islam, and another one is Khatab ba Jabanane Islam, an address to the youth of Islam. These two poems, I think, are my favorite. They always, uh, I find myself thinking about deep stuff whenever I read them. And I honestly, I get goosebumps when I read what Iqbal thinks of me, if I can ever be a moment in a in the true sense of the word. The destiny that is waiting for me, or for anybody who can come up to the definition of a moment. So some very sharp जो मंजर कशी है कि क्या आपके लिए वेट कर रहा है, that is unlike anything I have seen in any kind of literature.
Wow. What was your experience like when you visited the tomb of Rumi?
When I visited the tomb, it was closed actually, so I couldn't get inside the premises.
Was the
But
masjid open?
yeah,
The masjid
yeah,
next door? Was that what?
I could get into the courtyard, but not inside the main place.
Yeah.
So the entire journey was more about the journey. It was the Rumi thing was more about the journey than the destination itself. So I had to take a detour. It was I had to make some arrangements for it, and because I felt that it was really important for me. It was not a very popular tourist destination. People generally don't go to Konya, even if they have a layover in Istanbul. But I felt it was really important for me because I really wanted to understand where the inspiration of Iqbal was coming from. Like, because Iqbal calls Rumi his teacher, so I felt that I may unlock some secrets if I go there, or I may not find anything, any treasure there, but in the process of getting there, and in all the reflections that I'll have while I'm traveling to there and back from there, I may um, reach certain conclusions about thoughts that were half cooked before. And I really did, I think I really did feel good about it in a very peculiar way. I'm not sure if I can explain it in detail, but I think if I get a chance, I would make the same pilgrimage again.
Did you? I like Rumi, but I think my favorite poet of all the poets is Shams of Tabriz, his master. And my favorite line of poetry that I frequently think about is "Ne biliyorsun hayatının altının üstünden daha iyi olmadığını." What that means in English is, how do you know your life wouldn't be better turned upside down? And it
Mm,
was just so powerful to me because different things come to you at different points in your life to help you grow and to evolve. And that one, when I first heard that line, it very much felt like it was directly hitting me. And it was the catalyst to help me change. How do you know your life wouldn't be better turned upside down? Things can
mm,
happen to us where we just really don't understand, and it's uncomfortable and it's disappointing. But oftentimes we'll look back and we'll be like, I think I needed that to grow, to change. In fact, I'm glad that happened because it led to more beautiful destinations.
Yeah, this is profound.
Yeah. All this talk of poetry is reminding me of something that I had read on your blog post, I think it's about a month ago or so. I don't remember the exact words you used, but you had said something to the effect of how it's interesting an encounter with beauty can make a man thank God so much, or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
What was that idea? Why did you write it?
I think human beings want to be grateful to some higher entity. This is something embedded in them, and they have a huge void inside of them if they don't find themselves grateful for anything. So the only way to close that void is to find if there is anything in your life that you want to be grateful for, and then you find the entity who you want to thank for. And one daily phenomenon that compels us to think of a higher entity, to rise above our mundane existence and think of a higher entity that afforded us that encounter, is the sight of beauty. And that beauty can be the vessel of that beauty can be different. It could be an outstanding building. It could be a very pretty child running across the street. It could be anything. But you come across it and you are awestruck and you want to be grateful for having witnessed the moment. And then you very naturally you find yourself asking this question: who should I thank? I feel so compelled to thank someone. And if you're not a religious person, I think your automatic response would be, who should I thank? And you would find yourself compelled to think of conjure an entity. You could call it luck, fortune, you could call it anything. As Muslims, we are uh, naturally think about God whenever such a thing happens.
Yeah. You run a lot.
Yeah.
I like running myself. What does running do for you? What's the most beautiful place you've run to?
Mm. Running, I'm not a very social person. So I would like to explain to you how this affinity for running developed. We had a compulsory 1 hour evening games time in which all of us back in the cadet college, in which all the cadets were supposed to find a game and play it. They were not supposed to sit or spend idle time, because I found that games were too chaotic for me, and I wanted to have something that is more peaceful, maybe more rigorous too. And I tried different things, and eventually I realized that running is the only sport that I could excel at. And it began with the pursuit of excellence, and eventually as I ran faster and faster, and as I found that I could run longer and longer into places that were more and more away from civilization, that I realized that running had to offer a very an advantage that I could not think about when I started it. And it gave me peace, whatever that means. You could listen to the sound of the rhythm of your own breath, the every time your foot strikes the ground, and the certain harmony that your body falls into when it knows that it has to find a very economic way to cover such a long distance. It is brilliant.
Yeah, I like how
It
you
is
said that.
meditative.
An economic way.
Uh,
I don't think you've dealt with this, but for me, I've oscillated between being fat and fit multiple times.
Okay.
And the feeling of being sedentary as a fat person, it it's it's deplorable. I can feel it in me. Oh, I'm just so sedentary. But little by little, when I start to pick up the rhythm again and get into the act of getting back into shape, a lot of that has to do with running because I really like running as well. And when that blood starts circulating and you just get into the habit of it again and again, it's so nice to not feel sedentary. It's so nice to feel like your joints are always moving. You
Yeah.
feel kind of free, you feel kind of loose. It's a very nice feeling. Have you ever run to places like old Greek cities in Pakistan that were abandoned? Because I think I remember discussing with you about Alexander passing through different parts of Pakistan
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
different sort of ruins. Have you
Yeah.
run to
There
those
are,
areas before?
I have not run to those areas, but I have visited them. I have visited them when I was posted in the last base. The ruins were very close to the vicinity in about 40-mile radius, 40-kilometer radius. It was very convenient for me, and I was so fond of them that I would often catch coasters. I would because it is not considered to be a very lively place for somebody who is 20 some year olds to go to. So I often could not secure a companion for the journey, and I would often visit those places alone. So much so that my friends nicknamed me Stupa. Stupa is a I can't exactly recall, but a lot of ruins are named as stupas. It's like a
Mm,
relic, a Buddhist relic, generally
yeah.
is called as stupa. So I was nicknamed as stupa, and they still call me stupa. So I do. I think my fascination with those places was history. Although I don't read history much, but something about visiting those places reminds me of the impermanence of life, how they were the big hotshots of their time, and now they have only left ruins, and so will be the case with us someday. So
Yeah.
again, it's a spiritual feeling that I was chasing when I visited those ruins.
Have you visited Buddhist ruins in Pakistan?
Yeah, there are lots of them in Pakistan.
Mm. Yeah, it's always interesting to me how Pakistan, Afghanistan, they were really Buddhist before the Muslims came.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
always very interesting to me.
yeah. It's a very old religion. It's a very old religion, and there are very interesting theories about who the patriarch of the religion was. The Buddha.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but for many years, the Buddha was represented by a lotus flower. There were no images of him.
He was
It
represented
wasn't
by. Sorry.
a lotus flower. There were no images of him. It was just he was represented by a lotus flower. When Alexander brought his armies to the subcontinent and the Greeks remained in the areas, parts of India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, they uh, there was a good amount of them that accepted Buddhism and became Buddhist, but they merged the cultures. So they were used to making statues of their gods. And so the very first Buddhist statues began with the Greeks. The Greeks started creating statues of the Buddha. And that's a crazy phenomenon, in my opinion, because look at how that shaped all these Asian countries that revere the Buddha. There's all these statues of him, and it began with the Greeks, but not a whole lot of people know about that.
Hmm. Yeah, the lotus position itself is very I think it's actually the position. Uh, the Buddha is known to meditate in.
Mm.
He used to cross his legs and sit with his hands on his knees, and he used to meditate. And this position is actually called lotus. And
I, I didn't know that.
yeah, I think I think very highly of Buddhists because I have seen that they have one very famous demonstration of them was in an anti-government protest, which happened, I don't know, in some place, maybe Tibet or in some place. A Buddhist monk had to do an anti-government demonstration, and what he did was he set himself on fire in a public square, and he called the media to film it. And the videos of those self-immolation are not a pleasant sight. But if you are curious and you want to look at them, one very interesting thing you'll find is that the once the monk adopts the position and he sets himself on fire, and the fire is burning his body and eating him away, his expression does not change at all. It feels like he has transported himself to some other realm and he simply is not there. This takes uh, a lot of spirituality, I think, to be able to separate yourself from your body, to separate yourself from the all the things that the body feels. The most severe thing being pain when set to fire. So I was very impressed by that display and
Yeah, I've seen
spirituality
that.
that Buddhism can afford.
Yeah, that's I remember seeing that image.
Mm.
It's that's an interesting style of protest.
Yeah.
I think there was a couple Americans that did that in the past year for
Mm-hmm.
Palestine that they set themselves on fire. It's another level of commitment.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're right.
Another thing I wanted to mention to you, going back to the Greeks, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there's this idea that the Persians come from the Greeks. There was Perseus, he had a son named Perses, and Perses is the originator of the Persians. So I just think it's interesting, when the Greeks came to these lands, when they swept through Persia and then came to the continent, that it's almost like full circle in that way.
Yeah. Quran has very interesting things to say about uh, किस तरह से कौमें एक दूसरे को रिप्लेस करती हैं और इकबाल also has some very interesting things to say about this. कुरान फॉर एग्जांपल ये कहता है कि we replace one nation with another to maintain justice, to maintain balance in the creation. And Iqbal says about Muslims, and remember that he was speaking at the time when the caliphate had just fallen. So he says, जहां में अहले ईमा सूरत खुर्शीद जीते हैं, इधर डूबे उधर निकले, उधर डूबे इधर निकले. By which he means that Muslims live in this world like the sun, which may set at some place, but it then rises in some other from some other place.
Oh
So
wow.
they cannot just simply vanish from the face of this earth. So if their sun is setting somewhere, there it must be rising somewhere else. This is
Yes,
a very
there's two
interesting thing to,
twilights,
yeah.
the setting of the sun and then the rising of it. Yeah.
Mm.
That's a really cool one. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it is.
A couple years ago, I had asked you, when a person's young, they have many dreams, many aspirations that they want to live up to, and it's always the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. To me, you're someone who has achieved many of those echelons. You've crossed off a lot of those tick points. One of them being, for example, marriage and children, which, from the way I see it, especially in the Muslim community, it's almost as if that is the highest level. And then after that, it's just almost like an autopilot life. Now that you've reached that summit, what more do you look forward to? What more do you aspire to?
Every day, a large part of my thought goes to making my children better than I was. I want them uh, to spend more meaningful lives. I want them to think for themselves, fight for the righteous causes, know the righteous causes, and just live really good lives. This is what I really put an effort into this. And one of the reasons why I don't have the phone right now is also this, that I was finding that was getting increasingly uh, addictive. And so I took a 13-month hiatus in 2022. And this time again, I feel the need to take the same hiatus from technology, all kinds of them. And about this was about kids. And when you have a partner, you want each passing day makes your bond stronger, but it does not happen on autopilot. Like you were saying, just because the time is passing by, it is not supposed to make the bonds stronger. You have to put effort into this. It still, I think it takes more effort to strengthen and deepen a relationship and more commitment than a bachelor who is seeking a partner. He's very committed, and he has a very he's really on a pursuit. He looks like a man on a mission at times, but once you have the partner, it is again a pursuit, and it's a long and arduous journey. But there is motivation. You can always, if there is love, there can always be more love. If there is understanding, there can always be more understanding. And each step takes effort. So it's not autopilot at all.
That's a great insight to have. I didn't think about that. It's almost more arduous, you said, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
But it is also very rewarding, extremely rewarding.
Yeah, I can imagine. Are you good on time?
Yeah, I have time.
Okay. So, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything that you felt like you wanted to say, but you didn't get a chance to? Or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
It's an interesting question. I have not been asked this question in a very long time.
I always ask anytime I part ways with anyone, even in real life.
Hmm.
Closing thoughts. By the way, we don't have to close this out. I'm whatever is good with your time is when we'll go. But I
I
wanted to
actually
see
have
if you had,
to. Hmm.
yeah.
I I'm actually very surprised talking to you after such a long time. We have been in touch on messages, emails, but it's been very long since we have talked face to face, and I'm very impressed by the way you carry conversations. I find yourself a very well-groomed gentleman, and I congratulate you, your parents, on that. And
Thank you.
it was a fantastic experience, and I look forward to talk to you more. It was very. I think I learned a lot during this podcast, and I look forward to learning more from you.
No, likewise. Likewise. You shared some things today that really got me thinking. And I wanted to say I was very impressed with you. The way you speak is very poetic. I kept noticing. And it's it's so concise. You know, like if a blacksmith is hammering a sword, it's very concise, the exact points, you know? You were
Yeah,
building your sentences and tracing your words in a rhythm, a very poetic rhythm. So I thought that was very cool.
thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
yeah. But if there's nothing else to be said at the moment, then I suppose until next time, eh? Inshallah.
Sure. Inshallah. See you again, inshallah.